Hi, I'm Chef Julia Dunaway, and I make whole food, plant-based, no oil dishes. And I try to make them taste really good so you look forward to eating them. And that's important to me because so many people have told me that it was hard for them to switch to a plant-based diet because everything they ate tasted bland and uninteresting. So I'm really trying hard to make this food taste good. And today I'm going to be making a brown rice salad. And this can be made with any grain, not just brown rice, but I'm choosing brown rice, but you can make it with quinoa, farro, pretty much any kind of grain you like. So this is going to be a fun, easy, quick recipe, great for summer, so I hope you really like it. So the components of the brown rice salad have some options. You don't have to use everything in it, but one of the things I did add to it that made it really good was a tofu Italian sausage. So they're like tofu crumbles. And I like the Italian version that I made for my pizza class. And it just happened to be something I had left over, and I was making the salad and I added it. So it was kind of one of those recipes that just I made up. But I always use this extra firm organic tofu from Nasoya. And of course, with all tofu used for these kind of recipes, I pressed it really well. So I had it wrapped in paper towels and cloth towels, set under a cutting board in a book for 20-30 minutes. And then it got all the liquid out, because the problem, if you don't get all the liquid out of your tofu, then it won't absorb any of the flavorings. It will just be it'll stay watery. And that's why people don't like tofu, because they made something with tofu and it was real watery and tasteless. Well, it's because they probably didn't press the tofu very well. So I'm just putting it in the bowl and pressing it really well with my hands. I put gloves on because it's kind of gross to touch a bunch of stuff that other people are going to be eating, but you don't have to use gloves if you don't have them, especially if it's something you're making for yourself. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is make the marinade, and the marinade that goes on this is pretty simple. We start with some low sodium soy sauce, and I have about 3 tablespoons of that, and then I'm going to use a tablespoon of tahini. And I always use this Mighty Sesame Tahini, and I even put that in my recipe this time because it really does make a difference. It's so pourable, which makes it a lot easier to use, and it seems like it's a little bit lighter than some of the other tahinis that I've had that tend to be a little bit on the thicker, stiffer side. And then I'm going to use a tablespoon of coconut aminos, and some people use this coconut aminos instead of soy sauce because they don't like soy, but I think it's nice to add a little bit of it in addition to the soy sauce. And then we're going to add some spices. This is pretty simple. A teaspoon of paprika, just your typical red paprika, not smoked. A teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of fennel, and that was because it was the Italian profile. So I know that may seem strange with my brown rice salad that has kind of an Asian feeling to it, but it really isn't. It's kind of an all-purpose recipe, so you can use Asian tofu crumbles, you could use this kind of Italian-inspired tofu crumbles, whatever you like. But this is the one I happen to have around, so that's what I used. So I first mix the marinade with the tofu, and it's really best if you let this sit for half an hour or so, but we're not going to today because I want to get it in the oven and show you how it comes together. But if you put this in your fridge, in a Ziploc bag, or even in this bowl, and just let it sit for a while, I think it tastes more, it kind of intensifies the taste. So now after I've mixed the sauce in, I'm going to add some red onion, which is like half a cup of red onion, a couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and what makes this really different, I think, is I have some sunflower seeds. And what I did was I put them in the food processor and I blended it up to turn it into like a sunflower seed flour almost. They're just kind of crushed up. Instead of putting whole sunflower seeds in here, run them through your food processor, and that gives this whole dish this really kind of nice nuttiness that I found to be really tasty. So then we're just going to dump it on here on a parchment lined baking sheet. If you're hearing noises, looks like my dog got her toy stuck somewhere and she can't get it. So she's over there crying while her buddy is trying to take a nap, and he's probably saying, "Be quiet." So anyway, that's the noise you hear in the background. That's my life, is dogs. Okay, and if you see any big chunks of your tofu, then kind of break them up when you see them, because you want it to be kind of small crumbles, and that's how it looks. That's the quick Italian flavored tofu crumbles, but you can use any type, and I'm going to throw this in a 375 oven for about 25 minutes, and then I'll check it, and if it's not that brown, then I'll add a couple more minutes, 5 minutes. You can also air fry this at 350, but if you air fry it, cook it for like 5 minutes, and then check it, turn it a little bit, and then put it in for another 5 minutes, and do that until it's done, because it can go from being perfect to being overdone very quickly in the air fryer. So that's it for the tofu, and then we'll come back when it's done and start putting it together with all the ingredients for the rice salad. So let's make the rice salad, the brown rice salad, or we could call it a grain salad. But in my case, I'm making a brown rice salad, and I start with a really good brown rice. Today I'm using Masa Organics brown rice. It's a short grain brown rice. I order it online from Masa Farm in California. And the reason I love it is it has a really good taste, very nutty, very fresh. And the method I use is called the pasta method. And my rice is already done, but I just want to tell you how it's done, and I'll provide the recipe in the show notes. I take a full pot of water this size. This is like a 6-quart pot. And I fill it up with water, and then I put my rice, like 2 or 3 cups of rice in here, and I just let it boil in all this water for 20, in this case it was 28 minutes. So until the rice is done, and how I know it's done is I test it all along, and when it's tender but still looks like rice and it's not overdone or underdone, then I know it's ready. I pour the rice into a colander, and then I immediately put it back in the pot, put the lid on, and then let it sit for 5 minutes. Test it again. If it's still a little hard, I might leave it 5 more minutes. But then after 5 minutes, no longer than 10, I fluff it up with a spoon, and then I just let it sit here. So what I end up having is I have this very nice fluffy brown rice, not the gummy hard rice that, or over soft rice, because I used to try to make it in my rice cooker. I'm gonna measure out 3 cups. I used to make it in my rice cooker, Japanese rice cooker, and it would always kind of have this gumminess to it. It was just too, I thought it was just too soft or too sticky. So then I started experimenting. It's a little bit over 3 cups. I saw in Savoir magazine an article about the perfect brown rice, and this brown rice was cooked pasta style. So I started cooking it and never looked back. And just to show you, I did get the tofu out of the oven, and it looks perfect. See how it got all nice and brown, and there's crunchy pieces in there. And that's what I want, because that provides that little bit of almost like a meatiness to the rice salad. And these are all my ingredients. I'll show them to you, and then I'll start adding them little by little. So with this brown rice salad, it's a good summer salad. We'll add things like some bell pepper. This is about 1/2 cup of red bell pepper, and then another 1/2 cup of green bell pepper, and I diced it up pretty small, like smaller than small dice, kind of, you know, just finely diced. And then I have about 1/2 cup of some nice red onion, and I'm growing red onions in my garden this year, so this will be a good use of my red onions. They taste really good in dishes like this. And let me get my spoon here. So I'm just mixing these things up. And we're going to be adding some other ingredients a little bit later, like I have some, oh here, let me add the currants now. These are currants, about 3 tablespoons of currants. And currants are not the same as raisins. They're smaller than raisins. If you look at a currant, they're tiny. They're like little mini raisins. And they are made from grapes. This type of black currant is made from it's a special kind of dark red seedless grape that it's just a small grape. So it produces a small dried fruit. So the currant is small, which I think makes it kind of cool looking. Now, of course, if you can't find currants, you can use dried cranberries, raisins, golden raisins, whatever you like. So all we have left to go on our salad, we have some garnishes. I'll put these out here, and then we're going to make the dressing. So all the things I'm putting out here are things that you don't have to use, but you can use. In the salad itself, we're going to have a nice dressing that has some really good flavors, but these are things we're going to put on the top. I'm going to set them off to the side, and we'll come back to them later. We've got to make our dressing. So what's in the dressing? And another thing too is we don't want to put the dressing on this until right before we serve it. And the reason for that is the dressing will be absorbed by the rice, and then you won't taste it. So that's 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, low sodium soy sauce. And then I'm going to put 3 tablespoons of the tahini, and I'm going to measure it out. The dogs are playing noisily. I'm going to measure it out because a lot of times I don't measure things out, and then people are like, how much did you put in? That didn't look like enough, or that looked like too much, so I'll measure it out. Then I have 3 small garlic cloves, and this is kind of like garlic season pretty soon. And I found some really good garlic at, of all places, Costco. So Costco has really mild, delicious garlic, and it has a good flavor. So I was very pleased with that because not all garlic is good. So then I'm just going to combine this. Fresh cilantro. I've got 2 tablespoons of fresh cilantro. I picked that from my garden this morning. And then I'm just going to shake this all up. And that's the dressing. That's how simple it is. Could you add something else to it? Yeah, you could add sriracha and make it a little spicy if you wanted to, but you know, I'm keeping it kind of simple. So there's our dressing. It kind of looks a little clumpy. I'm gonna get a spoon and stir it a little bit so it's a little smoother. It's a little thick. So what I might do is, if you could see how it's really thick, there's nothing wrong with making a little thinner by adding water if you feel like it. I'm not going to right now because I think it's going to be fine. So, but remember, don't add the dressing until right before you serve it. So let's say that we're getting ready to get this served. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add the dressing to it. And it'll still taste fine if you add the dressing to it and eat it later the next day. But if you were having this for a group, for an event or something, I would add the dressing right before you serve it. And you can always save some dressing aside to refresh it. If you're going to be making this at home and dress half of it and then save the other half for the next day, you can do that too. But if you watch this, if you see this, you can see the dressing is kind of thick, but it coats the rice really nicely. And all these colorful vegetables make this a really pretty dish. Then we're going to add our tofu crumbles. And the amount of tofu crumbles we're going to add, I can't find here's my cup. We're going to add a cup of these tofu crumbles. And remember, the tofu crumbles have the ground up sesame seed or sunflower seeds, and they have the dogs. Hey, that's enough. Stop it. That really worked. So they have the taste of those sunflower seeds and some of the nutritional yeast. So these tofu crumbles have a really good taste. All right, so that's the basic recipe with the tofu crumbles and the dressing, the rice. But now, let's say we're going to plate this and eat it. So what are we going to put on it to make it even better than it already is? Well, the way I like to eat it is I have some candied jalapenos, and I'm going to be making some of these with the peppers in my garden. We have some sriracha that we'll add. And then I have, I'm going to go ahead and throw these in. These are just some jalapeno peppers. 1 jalapeno pepper from my garden that I sliced really thinly. And again, this is just an effort to use up things in my garden. If I really wanted to, I could add, I picked some cucumbers right before class. I was out there messing around. If I really wanted to, I could throw in some of these fresh cucumbers from the garden. Just 1 diced finely. I also found a lot of fresh herbs. So I have every kind of fresh herb you can think of. So I picked some cilantro, but we could easily use basil or tarragon or any kind of fresh herb. So plating it, if you mix the nuts into the salad, so I have some roasted cashews and roasted sunflower seeds. Now, instead of mixing these nuts into the salad, because the minute I do that, they're gonna start getting soggy, I prefer to leave the nuts separate. So let's say that I'm gonna eat a serving of my salad. I would probably, first of all, I would probably put it on a bed of greens, but just for illustration purposes, I'm putting it in the bowl. Now I'm gonna put my cashews and roasted sunflower seeds, and not too many, because most of the people that follow my way of eating are trying to reduce the amount of things they eat that are like nuts. Then I'm going to take some fresh herbs like this cilantro, cut it up a little bit, and then just kind of sprinkle the top with the fresh herbs. And to me that, not too many, to me that gives it a really nice, just a nice little boost. And then of course, if we wanted to put some of these candied jalapenos on there, they're better if you cut them up a little bit. You don't want to bite into a giant piece of candied jalapeno pepper. They are kind of spicy. So then I can just kind of put a few of those on there. I love those things. They taste great. And then of course it's tomato season. So I try to find uses for the tomatoes. I'll have tons of cherry tomatoes in my garden. So why not find a good use for them? And this salad is a perfect way to use some cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes or any kind of garden tomatoes. And then last but not least, if you bought too many avocados, like I did, which I have like 4 avocados in my fridge, it's like, yeah, I need to use these avocados. Why not take some cubes of avocado and put them on the side? Because they take, the creamy avocados taste really good with this rice recipe. So that's kind of something I'll do. It's just add a little, it doesn't have to be a lot of avocado. A little goes a long way. And then you can kind of split it up among all the people eating the salad. Everybody gets a little pile of nice fresh avocado. And that's it. So we could also then spice it up more with sriracha, but I'm not going to put that on. So let's say that you reserved a little bit of your dressing and you didn't use it all in your salad. Then at this point, you could drizzle a little bit more dressing on the top. But I think it tastes fine without the dressing added. In fact, what really attracted me to this salad was, number one, it was a cold salad, a way to use grains in the summertime. And then it was just so packed with flavor. It has a sesame flavor. It's chewy, crunchy from the nuts. And then it has all these fresh vegetables. I really love this dish. And I think if you make it, everybody will be blown away by the complexity of all the flavors and the sweet and the salty and the savory. And not to mention that little bit of the added tofu Italian sausage. So that's it for this recipe, brown rice salad. And I hope you make it, especially this summer. And I think you'll really love it as much as I do. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Instagram. I do some live YouTube videos. I'll be starting those back up. So watch for my live YouTube videos. And I'm trying to do a new recipe every week. So see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.